All right, just in the process right now of getting ready for that next challenge, and we've come off a good 3-week stretch where I think we're making progress as a football team. There's still a pretty good level of improvement that needs to occur. We definitely need to step forward in several facets of our game, and playing a team like Purdue is going to really force us to be at the highest level that we can possibly be. So, you know, I think the timing of this matchup is good for us. The challenge is huge, and you know, that's what we need right now as far as that next challenge, and that's what we're looking forward to.
You know, you mentioned the areas of improvement. What specifically would you like to see you guys do better?
Well, there's just a lot of small little things that that you know as a coach that sometimes may not even be all that obvious to the fans, but you know, there's things that we need to be sharper on, just with communication, just with the finer points of the offense and defense. You know, tackling was an area that I wasn't real happy with this past week. You know, so there's just enough there that you come out of that game, you know, you're happy with the results, but when you watch the film, you kind of scratch your head and kind of say, you know, I thought it was better than that. So you know, we need to get better.
You know, as a team, how do you feel like you guys have handled the early season success so far?
Well, I think we've handled it well. You know, we're not too, you know, it's one of those things we kind of expected to be in this position. You know, I think everyone realizes we can be better and we need to be better. That was the message to the team yesterday. We play in a league that's very unforgiving, and you know, to be competitive in our league, you have to have your game at a very high level, and if you don't, you'll come up short. So you know, that's what we're trying to prepare for, is to be at that level.
You know, with a game like this where the bullseye is more on their back, they're, you know, expected to win as an FBS team. How do you use that to your advantage?
Well, again, we're not going to make a big deal of that. That's just the nature of the game. You know, I think nowadays the FCS playing the FBS just isn't that uncommon of a matchup, and you've seen FCS programs have success and play close games, get victories. You know, so for us, you know, we're just trying to prepare our game so that we can put the best game possible out on the field and give a good representation of who we are.
Every year is different, Coach, but you've had some FBS games where you haven't started very well in the first quarter. You know, with the way this team has started 3 games in a row, pretty confident you can do that again?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, with the FBS game, there's only one game that we had that we didn't start well, and that was Ole Miss, you know, where we were down 21 points in the first 6 minutes. You know, the other ones, actually, we had leads going into the second quarter, and you know, so again, you get ready for the entire game. You get ready for the complete package and what needs to happen, you know, to give yourself a chance to be competitive. And you put too much emphasis on the start, you know, then are you going to have enough, you know, at the end? So, you know, we played 3 games. We know what the adversity feels like right now. We've been through some of that, and you know, now we're going to really be challenged to a point where, you know, are we ready to handle the next level?
You know, what impressed you about the way Purdue played Notre Dame this past weekend from that film?
Well, you know, they're a team that's getting better. You know, from watching their film from week 1 to week 2, and then to week 3, the team that you're watching this past week is a different team than that first week or the second week. So they played with a lot of passion. They played with a lot of heart. This was a huge game for them, with the rivalry feel to it, and plus playing it in Indianapolis was a big deal. So I know this was a game that was very important to them.
Do you see their size presenting a lot of matchup problems for you?
You know, I think we see that size every week. So it's you know, our offensive line average is about 315, 320. So that size factor just isn't as big of a factor as what it might have been 10, 15 years ago. You know, we want fast, agile defensive linemen that move around well, so that's by design. You know, I think once you start getting linemen that are in that 280 plus range, you lose a lot of your mobility. So, you know, we are who we are, and you know, that's by design.
You know, how much will their quarterback, he's a new starter this year, he's not very experienced, how much will that play into the game plan in terms of how much pressure you guys bring?
Well, again, we have to do what they'll allow us to do. He did start 5 games for him last year, so he's fairly experienced coming into the season. You know, there too, you see improvement in his game week after week, which is normal with any quarterback in his development. So naturally, if we can bring pressure, do pressure, you know, that's something we like to do. So, but we have to see whether or not they will give us the formations or the, you know, the presentation that allow us to do that, and what the course of the game is going to. A lot of times, what dictates pressure is where you're at in the game.
You know, finishing games was an issue last year for the team. What do you see as the biggest thing that's changed between last year's team and this year's? I mean, a lot of the personnel is the same, and a lot of the players are the same. What, you know, is it a mental thing that's changed, or?
Well, I disagree with you there. You know, we won a lot of close games last year.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think you can put the label, we didn't know how to finish games last year. You know, we beat Northern Iowa at Northern Iowa in overtime. We just lost a couple close games, you know, 2 specifically that were heartbreakers. You know, that's what you learn from it, is, you know, from those losses that, you know, if we just find a way to make one more play, you're not looking at a completely different game plan, you're just trying to find that extra play. And, you know, so last year's team, I thought, was a very good, solid football team. The chemistry was strong, and now we're just trying to build on that, just to find that extra play.
Dale, their running back, Mostert's one of the fastest guys in college football. You know, how do you keep him in between the tackles?
Well, again, that's up to them to a degree. They're going to, you know, have their game plan. You know, we just have to try to keep him running east and west more than he's running north and south, because when he starts going north and south, that's pretty fast. So when you're Big Ten champion in all the sprint events, that's very impressive.
How do they use him? He doesn't have a lot of catches. Do they move him around?
Well, actually, their running backs have a lot of catches. So you have their top receivers, their tight end, and then the next 2, the 2 and 3, are the 2 running backs. So they do a lot with the backs out of the backfield, and you know, so they have a nice package. They're very diverse in the formations that they give you. So they're not going to sit in any one formation and just let you play against them. So you know, they got a pretty good package.
Special teams wise, how good do you feel about your kickoff return coverage unit right now?
Well, again, with our coverage unit, will be tested, just because both backs are also their 2 return guys, who are number 2 and number 3 in the history of Purdue football with kickoff returns. So you know, I'm more hopeful that our kicker's leg is feeling good that day to, you know, not give him a chance to return any. But you know, I think our coverage teams are good, but we're going to have to be, you know, very good this week to contain them.
In the one play in the first half where the Southeast Missouri State receiver was wide open, he overthrew him. You probably remember that one. Was that miscommunication, basically, or what would occur to?
Well, it's the coverage you're playing. It's a cover 3, and it was just a being out of position is more of the right term instead of being out of miscommunication. So we just needed to have our safety over.
Was that like a zone coverage?
That was zone coverage.
Okay.
So, as a coach, what you always look at, these are always the 3 things that you look at when you watch film on a play. You look at their alignment, their assignment, whether or not they were assignment, if there was a misassignment, and their technique, whether or not they're using a technique. That first one, the alignment, if you have poor alignment, many times you could put yourself at risk for giving up a big play, just being a couple yards off where you need to be is not good. So, but those three things, and then you look at it, see was it a physical mismatch or whatnot. But as a coach, I mean, when you see that it's an assignment, alignment, or technique, now you just got to coach it up better.
One thing that has changed, at least for the first 3 games, is that we're scoring a lot more points. Is that just a different philosophy, or are we just lucky, or how come we're scoring so many more points? Or maybe we should wait to talk about it until Missouri Valley Conference comes
Well,
up.
again, and fans have a way of looking at things a little differently. It's a team effort. You know, you got to look at we're scoring points because number one, we're giving the offense good field position. We're creating turnovers. You know, Saturday's game, they got the ball on the 1 yard line once, and got the ball on the 3 yard line another time. You know, against Eastern Illinois, we returned a couple punts that took it way down inside. I mean, it's a team effort that to score points, it's not just about offense. And you know, that's where I think fans really miss the boat. They just think it's a one-dimensional show, where the reality is if your defense and offense and special teams aren't all coexisting well together, it's going to be tough to score points.
You know, are you encouraged though by your offensive line right now? You've had certain guys banged up and had to shuffle some guys around, but just what they've been able to do offensively and, you know, creating holes for the run game. And
well, I've been encouraged for the fact that we came in wanting to establish the run game, and we're establishing the run game. You know, so, and especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter, where it's critical to have a potent run game, we've been able to do that. Now, again, we're going to be tested at a higher level. That's exactly what we need to see where we're at as a football team. Can you expect everything to work the same way it did against Southeast Missouri or Eastern Illinois? You know, we got to find that out. But and naturally, you're going to have other options that we can go to, so we're not going to put all of our eggs in one basket here and think we can just go do what we want to do.
you know, what's the latest on Ethan Worth's status?
Again, each day we think he's going to be available, so you know, we just keep thinking that until one day he shows up.
How about Notario?
Each day I think he's going to be available, so
Okay.
I'll keep thinking that until, you know, I don't know what his.
But it's not a major injury with either.
We're not looking at any structural damage, so right now it's just more of a muscular nature.
Do you think you get Ken Malcolm back this week? Play?
Doubtful.
Doubtful. And can you just, you know, you see him every day, Coach, but can you talk about Mark Ionati's confidence, how much it's grown now, the 3 games you've seen him?
Yeah, again, it's not unexpected from my perspective. I mean, I've seen him through the spring, saw his leadership skills in the summer, and then now through pre-fall and through the first games. I mean, this is what I was hoping to see. This is what I thought that we had. He can still take another step forward. There's still some ceiling left for him to achieve, and so we'll just, you know, I think with each game he just gets that much more comfortable and confident, and with that he should continue to improve.
McRoberts caught a lot of passes under pretty good coverage. How do you feel about the play of the secondary?
You know, that McRoberts is pretty good. You should have seen the catches he made against Kansas. And we actually, I thought, did a pretty, he had 7 receptions for 88 yards. His longest was a 26-yarder. Going into the game, if you were to tell me that we could hold them to that with those type of numbers, a lot of his were just 5-yard, 10-yard type passes. I'd have taken it in a second. So he is a big-time receiver that would make any secondary in the country look like that they were having some difficulties. A couple of the 2 catches he made were, I mean, they were what you see on Sunday. So he is a talented individual.
You know, have you been happy how you guys, as a unit, have defended the big play? I think the longest play you've given up this year is 29 yards.
Yeah, and that was the message to the team. You know, again, we had some, we weren't as sound with our reads defensively, so we were giving up some runs that, you know, they're in that 8, 9, 10-yard range, and you just hate seeing it, but you're not giving up the big play. And when you don't give up the big play, you know, you keep points off the board. And I think the key factor is that you need to remember, anytime you make a team settle for a field goal, you're keeping points off the board. And you look at the scoring opportunities Southeast Missouri had, they settled for 3 field goals, and we had a goal line stand. Well, that could have been an additional 28 points. So, you know, there's things that you do have that bend but don't break mentality from time to time, but that's defense. You just can't give up easy scores, and we got to make them earn everything they get. And if you're doing that to the team, at least you're giving your players a chance.
What kind of matchup problem is their tight end, Justin Sins, for you?
Yeah, well, he's not even the other one is actually John Mackey watch list, number 86. He's big, physical. They'll throw to him. Sins is kind of their number 2 guy. The way I look at their 2 tight ends is kind of similar to what we do with Pruitt and Feeney. So they use them a lot in their formations. You'll see them out wide from time to time. You'll see them in tight. They have a very tight end friendly offense. So that's kind of how they manage it.
They use them in the red zone like you use your 2 guys too?
Well, they seldom do they leave the field. One of them is usually always on the field. Now, they're not always going to give you, your traditional tight end formations. So unless you're looking for them specifically, you might not even realize that they're in the game. But a lot of times they're at different points in their offensive attack.
I was pretty, even though he had just one tackle, I was pretty impressed with Solomon, how he's playing after that knee. I thought for sure a month ago when I saw him in braces and crutches that he would never make it back this year, but apparently he's improving. Is he 100% yet?
Well, right now he just needs to get in shape. So that's that game shape that doesn't happen overnight. So he should be getting more and more comfortable with what we're asking him to do with each practice. So he'll be available.
Would you consider them a pass first team?
Well, it's depending on what they want to work on. They have a 50-50 approach. They have a nice scheme as far as how they're doing it. They'll do a lot of high percentage type passes where it's really not that different than just doing an extended pitch or something along that lines. Just trying to get their skilled players out in open space, let them make plays. And so it's a good mix. They're not going to let you just tee off and get after them. They're going to constantly be changing it up, and they have a lot of variety with their offense.
Would you say they play a more multiple defense or a straight 4-3, Dale?
Well, again, depending on who they're playing and what the situation is, and so defensively, I think even there, the improvement I've seen from their first game to this past week against Notre Dame, they have done a much better job with the package, and they have the capabilities to bring pressure when they want to bring pressure. It just kind of depends on who they're playing and what they feel they need to defend as far as what concept they'll be using.
And Malcolm Agnew's obviously gotten a lot of eyes for defenses. How do you continue to get him in space and get him opportunities this weekend?
Well, with Malcolm, I mean, it's the running back position, so, naturally we have our bread and butter plays. You continue to run those, and then you just find other concepts that, get them, open screens have been good for us with them, and so that's always an element. And anytime you have teams looking for screens, that might take a little edge off of them too. So, sometimes with a guy not even getting the ball, sometimes he may help you just as a diversion type thing. So, we want to be creative with Malcolm, but at the same time, we have enough weapons around him that we don't have to completely be one-dimensional.
The pass he scored on the 33-yard, was that a called screen or was that just like a check down? I know he's over there and I'm going to throw it to him because he's over there.
Screen.
It was a called screen. And could you talk about Michael Pruitt, recruiting him? Was it a heavy battle with some of the FBS schools, or was he not highly recruited?
He was under the radar. We were excited about him, and we were surprised that more schools weren't actively recruiting him. sometimes in recruiting too, it's the program that you come from, whether if you got a good football reputation, and all the colleges go there. If your program that you're in is one that's under the radar, then sometimes that's where you find that diamond in the rough, and that's what we did.
Could he play defense?
He could play any position. He'd be a great defensive lineman, I believe, just with his athleticism. His strength is very good, but he's at the perfect position for him, which is the tight end spot. His hands are probably as good as anybody on the team.
How do you feel like him going through his injury last year helped him mature, especially in a leadership role?
Well, the injury, until you go through one, you never know how tough you are. And I think there, Mike Hull found a inner strength that allowed him to continue to play through the season and through some pain. And that will be something that'll help him down the road, because football is a game where after that first practice, you're never at 100%. So you're always dealing with something.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, Coach.
Thanks.